They say Tulum is empty because it was overpriced, because it lost its magic.
Wait, what? That dream destination in Mexico is over?
In this video, I'm gonna tell you what's really happening in Tulum beyond the headlights, so you can understand where the market is truly heading.
You'll want to watch until the end because this is not another typical Tulum video. I'm going to reveal 5 uncomfortable truths about this market, things no one explains and almost no one dares to say. And at the end, I'll break down the real economic chain reaction that impacted the entire real estate market.
The truth is deeper. What really happened here isn't just a market correction, but it's a lesson of what happens when in paradise it's pushed its limit. After a decade living here, working here, and even investing here, I've seen every stage of the cycle. I saw Tulum rise, I saw Tulum break, and I'm seeing Tulum reset.
But first, to understand where we are now, we need to go back to where it all began, to the Tulum we all fell in love with. What made it so magnetic, so different, and why the world fell in love with it in the first place. So I first came here about 15 years ago, just on vacation, never imagining I'd end up living here. Back then it felt like a shared secret, a small fishing village with white sandy roads and a calm energy that slowed down time. The hotels were palapa huts by the sea, the sunrises were magical, and people came not just for the beach but for peace. You could park a few meters from the water, grab a burger, and stay until the stars came out. There was no minimum spend, no loud music, just the ocean and long conversation with international people. That's actually where we met the barefoot luxury, a kind of quiet, effortless elegance that didn't need to show off. Hotels like Kokikoki, Casamalca, Azulik, Nomade, and Bitulum were living works of art. Natural materials, warm lights, and the scent of copal everywhere. You came to reconnect, not to perform, to dance barefoot under the moon, to feel free. Simple, warm, and real. One day, Tulum went viral. What used to be a quiet secret for artists and travelers became Mexico's most Instagrammable spot. Magazines called it the new Bali, celebrities showed it off, and influencers made it their stage. The small bohemian town turned into the world's eco-chic capital, part jungle, part design, and a lot of ego. That's when the famous Tuluminati people appeared, barefoot, covered in crystals, big hats, talking about energy and driven by hype. Tulum became more than a destination, it became a brand, known around the world for its raw beauty, authentic experiences, design-forward architecture, culinary sense, and music that blended art with freedom. It wasn't just a place to visit, it was a lifestyle, a feeling, a movement that everyone wanted to be part of. Because everyone wanted to come to invest, to rent, to build, or just to be seen in Instagram. In a few years, growth exploded so fast, the soul of Tulum couldn't keep up. We went from spiritual to noisy, rituals to after parties. Beach clubs got louder and prices went crazy. The jungle filled with cookie-cutter buildings and the magic started to fade. Then came the pandemic. It was a key moment where we all saw Tulum being transformed. Everything changed. While the world shut down, Tulum stayed open and it became the symbol of freedom. For almost 3 years, there was no low season. Digital nomads, DJs, influencers, everyone came. Rents doubled, construction exploded, and prices became absurd. Abuse was everywhere, overpriced taxis, bribes, 20% suggested tips, and endless new developments without planning or infrastructure. Even big government projects like the International Airport here in Tulum and the Jaguar Port brought more debate than progress. The pandemic made Tulum the only open paradise in the world, but also the most vulnerable. Today, Tulum feels quiet, but empty of excess. The streets are calm, beach clubs are half full. Many pre-sale projects now stand unfinished. Some shops closed, rents dropped, and what feels like a crisis to some feels like a reset to others. After years of noise, inflated prices, and too much ego, Tulum finally needed to breathe. Because this silence for me isn't the end. It's the jungle taking pause. It's the land saying, enough of selling me, let me be myself again. To understand what's next, we have to understand the 5 mistakes we did as a society, and here they go. Number 1, elitism. It's something very uncomfortable to hear, but it's true. Elitism began to take over, and in my country, sadly, there's a deep social divide between economic classes. We see it everywhere, in the exclusive restaurants, the trendy clubs, the areas where if you don't seem like you have money, you just don't fit in. But in Tulum, that class divide went international because it was about your passport. Many Mexicans experienced it. Showing up at the beach club and being told like, hey, I'm sorry, we're full, while foreign tourists walk right past with smiles and, with a reserved spot waiting. It really hurt the Mexican tourism because Tulum was once a place where everyone felt welcome. And it was magic. Travelers from all over the world sharing the same beach, the same energy, the same peace. And somewhere along the way, the spirit broke. This unspoken rule took over of like, if you're a foreigner, you are in, and if you look local, maybe wait a little bit. And that created a lot of resentment because it was about belonging and not feeling welcome in your own country. Now, number 2, the loss of public beach access and the Jaguar Park illusion. In Mexico, there's a federal law that guarantees free public access to all beaches. No hotel, beach club, or homeowner can legally privatize this shoreline, any shoreline. So you can own a beachfront property, but if someone wants to walk or sit in front of your property, you cannot ask them to leave because the beach belongs to everyone. There was a time when going to the beach in Tulum was a right, not a privilege. You would wake up early, ride your bike to see the sunrise, bring your towel, no fees, no reservation, no minimum consumption, just freedom. And then the beach clubs started to put up walls, not letting free access, and many of them started with covers or minimum consumption in beach clubs to access to the beach. What was once a free open coastline turned into a giant private beach club. And to find an entrance to the beach, it was very difficult. Plus, parking was super expensive. And obviously, this changed everything. North of Tulum, there was this huge public beach for everyone to access, and we were all happy. But then came Jaguar Park. When it was announced, many of us thought, finally, a project to protect the jungle and guarantee free access back to everyone. But the reality turned out very different. What was sold as an environmental initiative became for many a way to control access and charge for it. Now, if you go in a vehicle, you have to pay yes, motorcycle or car. There's free access, but walking and you don't want to melt under the sun until you get there. There's not a walking path with, shops, a lot of trees. It's impossible. Today, thank God, there's changes being made, but I'll explain that later. But this one, it was one of the huge mistakes that made that this season was a lot quieter. Number 3, the absurd prices and the cost of abuse. At the peak of the boom, Tulum prices turned ridiculous. A drink, $25. A 2-kilometer taxi to the beach, up to $50 or more. And a chicken at an organic market, $40. And of course, the suggested 20% tip. I remember that a friend once said, if you charge like Paris, people expect to feel like Paris, obviously. But you cannot sell luxury with potholes, poor lighting, and cops stopping you to negotiate that you are driving over speed limit. So the issue wasn't the price itself, but the abuse that became normal. Visitors from all over the world left feeling drained instead of relaxed. When people feel taken advantage of, they don't feel like returning. That's the thing. And number 4, the change of vibe from wellness to chaos. There was a time when Tulum was all about healing, yoga, silence, music, sound healing, sunrise rituals. But slowly, the vibe shifted. Cenotes turned into raves, villas into after parties, and beaches into nightclubs. Nothing wrong with fun. The problem was the balance. What used to be a soulful escape became a non-stop party scene. People who came to rest started leaving saying, I didn't move here to live next to a rental that parties all night. In just a few years, Tulum went from wellness to wild. It was profitable, yes, only in the first 2 months of the year, January and February. And then tranquil, but it broke the magic because when a place loses its energy, it also loses the kind of people and investment it attracts. Tulum's true luxury was never the party, it was the peace. And number 5, the seaweed. Every now and then, nature reminds us of who's in charge. And this year, she made it loud and clear. We had 7 straight months of seaweed, when normally it's 4 months. We had it from March to early October. Beaches covered, brown water, and that smell. And in Tulum, it's even harder to fight. The reef is too close, having barriers, and nets can disrupt turtle nesting season. Seaweed is a cycle. It comes in the summer months, it goes away in the winter months that we don't have a winter here. And the amount, it's also a cycle. We have one brutal year and two other calm ones, then back again. But 2025, it was rough. And now the sea is turquoise again, but there's a lot of people that had that bad experience. And now the real estate market. And to understand the real estate market, we have to see it as a whole, including the urban planning. So there was a saying that said, everything sells in Tulum. And for a while, it did. For years, Tulum became a playground for young developers from all over the world. People with money maybe to buy the land, but hoping that the pre-sales will fund the rest. But most of them built without experience, without understanding the soil, the humidity, the ecosystem of the Caribbean. They only followed the trend, not the vision. And the result was leaky condos, cheap finishes, poor layouts, and some abandoned pre-sale projects, of course. Building in Tulum isn't about stacking concrete. It's about respecting the environment and designing with it. But during the boom, the goal was to sell fast, not to build well. Many developments rose on inaccessible lots with pools and jacuzzis, but no sidewalks, no parks, no real public access. There was no master plan, just isolated compounds, each with exclusive amenities, beautiful green views, but zero sense of community. Tulum became a paradise for investors, but not for residents. And a lot of people, but with a promise of high ROI for vacation rentals in Airbnb. During the boom, many informal brokers entered the market, people selling even from the US or from Canada without ever living here, and even agents from Playa del Carmen who didn't really understand Tulum's dynamics. Market prices began to reflect what investors were sold to earn rather than the true value of land or construction quality. Many investors trusted realtors, and realtors trusted the idea that prices would keep going up, but few stopped to question it. No one really analyzed whether tourism was slowing down or if new construction was flooding the market after the pandemic. And then came the corruption. Illegal densities approved with bribes and no proper drainage or environmental control. Beautiful renderings with a lot of greenwash, disconnected, fragile, and unsustainable. Eventually, obviously, the bubble burst. 3-bedroom units marketed for $700,000 in region 15, really? Far from the beach. They now compete with ocean view apartments or 5-bedroom villas at same price. Most buyers simply didn't know how to read the market, and they bought in a wrong price. Many expected strong returns and quality and got the opposite. And in a correcting market, knowledge is power. Now the good news, the purge has already begun. Projects built without a soul are fading away, while the ones with true architecture, durable materials, and respect for nature are standing out. Today, actually, only about a third of agents who were selling back in the day in the past 3 years are still active. Those of us who stayed are the ones who truly took the profession seriously, and the rest faded out when the market is correcting. And that's why I always tell my clients, invest only in developments with clear title, infrastructure and urban context, and quality construction. And I, as an architect, can tell you a lot about that. Sometimes, just like people, destinations need to hit rock bottom to find themselves again. And that's exactly where Tulum is, between what it was and what it can become. We've learned a lot, that not everything that shines is good investment, that beauty without planning fades, that destinations don't thrive on marketing, they thrive on community. True luxury is not measured in square meters, but in quality of life. We've learned that tourism has limits, and that hospitality, the soul of Mexico, should never be lost behind service or fees or elitism. Development must be designed as homes, not as financial products, and architecture must coexist with the jungle, not compete against it. It's like Tulum is going through its urban adolescence. Growing fast, making mistakes, but also learning, maturing, and evolving. And that's why I don't feel sadness, I feel hope. Because right now, prices are stabilizing, great architects and responsible developers are taking the lead, and buyers, people like you, are becoming smarter and more conscious about the real estate market here. This isn't a collapse, it's a cleanse. Because Tulum isn't dying, it's transforming. It's letting go of excess, greed, and improvisation and returning to its essence. And the good news is that change is already happening. Local developers, business owners, and even the government are finally sitting together to build a more balanced, sustainable, and livable future for Tulum. There has been many beach clubs joining for giving free access to all, reducing prices. There's an app now like Uber to not use taxis in case they don't lower the price. And government is making a plan so that Jaguar Park is something people love, not hate. And I'll be there in those roundtables, in those conversations, and I'll be sharing updates as we shape this new chapter together. In my next video, I'll break down the real cost of property here in Tulum in 2025. What's worth it and what's not. So if you found this video helpful, don't miss the next one. I'll be breaking down how foreigners can actually buy a property in Mexico, the legal process, and how financing really works here in Riviera Maya. I'm Carla Torres, founder of Amoramar Real Estate, and if you're thinking about buying in Tulum, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, or anywhere in the Riviera Maya, you can book a private call with me through the link below in the description. So, see you soon!